Welcome. Thank you for joining us at the first of our CMO series of webinars. I'm delighted to say that today's webinar for Chief Marketing Officers in Financial Services will feature our special guest, Jeff Bullas. One of the reasons I wanted Jeff to kick off this series for us is that when he came and spoke to a group of blue chips clients, CEOs, I had difficulty getting them to leave the room at the end. And I think Jeff has even more interesting content for Chief Marketing Officers because he was listed as one of Forbes' top 20 influencers for Chief Marketing Officers globally. So Jeff, thank you for joining us today.
It's a pleasure, Karen.
I'm looking forward to hearing Jeff talk about a bit about the journey he's been on with regards to social media, and our hope is that you get some really good learning from it. So Jeff, tell us how your journey about social media started, because it was not always thus. This is actually a relatively recent thing in your career timeline.
Yeah, it was, I originally trained to be a teacher, and about 6 years into that career that I started to feel that it really wasn't my right career path. I hated every day. I looked at teachers who were very tired and worn out in their 40s, and I was in my 20s at that stage. And I can't do this for the rest of my life. And you know, I was teaching people that don't want to learn. They're called teenagers generally. So I had to make a career choice, and so I went and did what I did for my students. I actually went and did some career sampling, as in work experience. So then I tried insurance selling, then I went and tried technology selling, because and the reason I did selling was because during my teaching career at night I did some selling of subliminal suggestion tapes. So I realised I was actually starting to make more money in 2 or 3 nights a week than I was in my career as a teacher. I went, well, maybe I can sell. So that's why I did the career sampling. And a lot of us think we're going to do something for the rest of our lives. It looks great from a distance, and when we show up, we're going, oh my God, I've actually wasted 10 years of my life doing this. But it's never wasted. It's not a mistake. It's just life.
Steve Jobs, thank you.
Yeah. When I was in between jobs as code for unemployed, marriage had broken up, and I was 50, and it was a pretty desperate situation. So I moved back to Sydney, and the reality was I started reading books in my downtime, which is mostly every day, and came across a book by David Meaden Scott called The New Rules of Marketing and PR, which I'm sure some of you have heard of before, which talked about inbound marketing. In other words, you can get leads without chasing them, okay? And it really, as a person that had done cold calling, done outbound advertising, this really was something that touched me. So, and then I read a book by Tim Ferriss, The 4-Hour Work Week, and it was about creating a life and a business in a digital world. I went, wow, that sounds fascinating. And then there was a blog by HubSpot that said, if you have an inkling what you want to start a business on, or what you want to create, just start a blog, just start writing. So in the middle of all that movement and inspiration, Facebook and Twitter were all starting to emerge. I think it was only 5 million on Twitter, there was 50 million on Facebook. And lady I was going out with at the time said, why don't you get into Facebook? So I did, and what happened was I went, wow, I connected with all my friends and colleagues that I hadn't seen in decades, all around looking older, having a lot less hair. And I went, this is fascinating. And I saw it as a game changer.
Oh.
So
which year was this?
This is 2008. Yeah. So it was early days of the revolution, and so after the HubSpot blog, which said just start a blog.
Yeah.
In 2009, I started the blog on social media because I was just fascinated. I saw social media as a game changer because people were obsessed with it already back in 2008.
Yep.
And I went, there's something big going on. I've just got to be part of it. So the blog was my place of just observing and then writing about it. And that's how it all started. And it basically, for me, it's had the biggest impact on my life. Social media today is this incredible intersection of humanity and technology where everyone can become a publisher and everyone can get their voice out and get attention, especially back then because it was very organic. And as we know, that's changed a lot in the last few years. But this intersection of humanity and technology that everyone could use just fascinated me. And being innately curious, that was the start of the journey. And then in the middle of all that, guess what shows up? There was a perfect storm. It was where the smartphone, as Steve Jobs created the iPhone, and then everyone had a publishing machine in their pockets. So for me, I was there at the right time. So timing is everything in business. I think 42% of all successful businesses is all about the timing, research so I was very lucky. But we started creating, and that's, for me, social media has given me a place to create and share my imperfect ideas with the world.
Wow. So 2009 is it's a decade ago, but I remember that moment, and we were reading the same things and we were thinking the same stuff, and we were starting to play in that territory also.
Yep.
I'm really conscious that it's almost unrecognisable today. The world that we were in then, that we were experimenting in and trying out ideas and really testing our creative and our copywriting and our ability to distribute content using these new channels is incredibly different now. So if you were going to summarise the really big differences for chief marketing officers, what would you say are the must-follow few things these days that people need to be thinking about?
I think if you're looking at what's happening and looking at the future, you've got to look at what's not working.
Right, yep.
So if you look at what's not working, you get an idea of where it's going.
So what's not working?
So things that aren't working now, and this is what when I have a conversation with many, especially small business owners and even CMOs, is they're going, well, I've got all these followers on social media and we're publishing, we've got this many on Instagram, we've got this many on Facebook, and we're not getting much conversation. Well, organic traffic on social is now less than 1%.
Wow.
So the reality is you've got to pay for attention now. It doesn't mean you shouldn't be building, earned attention, like building an email list, building traffic to your website through search engines. It just means that if you really want to amplify and accelerate your marketing, you've just got to pay for it today. And as we know, Facebook has incredible targeting, and we've seen results of that used in elections, and we know where that's happened around the world. So, number one, you've got to pay for attention now because it's much faster, and organic is certainly still continuing to drop. Number one, the other one is automation. I remember about 2 years into the social media blog journey, I started using automation for Twitter, and I was accused of being evil because social media is all about humans, right? Creating real stories and sharing their
So
stories.
when you say automation, do you mean posting to timestamps?
Setting content up so it just goes out onto social, out onto a blog even, without actually having to show up. Because I realised early on that this was not scalable. I could not continue to get up at 4:30 a.m, write the blog, and then do it all myself, which is what I did for 4 years. So before I went to my day job, which I eventually got a job. And so the reality is you've got to pay for it, and you've got to automate. And automation is, and what do we see today? We see all the rise of all these automated marketing automation platforms. You've got Marketo, you've got Adobe, you've got IBM, you've got Salesforce, HubSpot as well. So we've taken automation, it's gone to a whole new level. And the thing that's following that now, and everyone's still wrapping their heads around, is artificial intelligence that'll identify what works and what doesn't at scale.
And quickly iterate.
Yes, exactly. And machine learning, again, in that same sort of space. The other thing too is it's not just about automating the message out there, it's also automating content creation.
Right.
Now this is a bit of
user-generated content or your own? Or
there's robots now that can create great content that actually is not even able to be identified as being written by a machine. There's still ways to go on that yet. What we're also observing is the automation and scaling of video and images as well. So using static images that can be turned into video, and that's also unfolding. So automation, AI, pay for it. There's maybe the top three to keep an eye out for.
Okay, thank you. Begs the question to me, where does this leave email? We still see some good results from email. I hear what you're saying about Facebook. We've got clients who are getting amazing results in most unexpected audiences with paid Facebook work, backed by good content, not hasten to act. I think that the extent to which we're doing machine learning or automation with clients is very much about the technology they have and how visionary the client is, because we can only move as fast as the client's ready to go and their organisation's ready to go. But I'm interested to know what you see as the role of email now, given the decade that you've watched these trends evolve.
Email is declining both with its open rates and click-throughs.
We've said that for a long time.
But the reality is it is still the business
That's
communication tool.
Yeah.
So just because it's declining doesn't mean you stop using it or doing it. It just means you've got to get maybe better at hacking, building your list, and getting better at writing content that gets cut through. So email is certainly not to be ignored, and you still need to be building an email list. And that was one of the biggest mistakes I made early on, was not building my email list from day one.
Right.
So, and I really didn't sort of concentrate on doing that until year 3 or 4. I sort of played at it. I really doubled down on that about 4 or 5 years ago.
And can I ask how many people you email? Or is that top secret?
No, that's fine. It's about 120,000.
That's just extraordinary.
But email's not...
I'd like to ask more, but I'm going to hold that.
The other place to play is Facebook Messenger. For the last 18 months, I noticed a rise of chatbots.
Mm-hmm.
So chatbots are essentially a way of automating building a list on Facebook Messenger.
Yeah.
In fact, I saw some data today that Messenger apps have actually surpassed, in terms of the numbers of people using it, surpassed social media.
It's insane.
So you've got to fish where the fish are, which is the old, cliche quote.
Do you think that's category specific, that certain categories do better? I'm quite fond of the ABC News chatbot on Facebook Messenger.
Okay.
But any other bot that comes to me on Messenger, I'm really not very fond of at all. So what do you see? That's one user's experience, but
You've got to be very careful how you use Facebook Messenger. So I'm much more nuanced about the messaging we use on Messenger.
Right.
Because it's got to be seen as much more casual. It's got to be much more not about the selling, but just giving something away for free.
Right.
Which is the same way you build a list on email. You give away something for free, add something of value that helps your audience.
Yep.
And also Facebook and also the chatbot platforms such as Mobile Monkey and ManyChat, which a couple of the top 2. The reality is they will actually be very careful in how they engage with Facebook, because if they get put in the naughty corner, they could be shut down and there's their business gone overnight. So the reality is that Facebook's very, very careful in how it's watching you and how you use Facebook Messenger Messenger. So you've got to really be aware of the nuanced rules of the game.
I think that reflects what we've seen in almost every single new channel, whether it's LinkedIn, organic, LinkedIn, paid, Twitter organic originally, Facebook paid now.
Mm-hmm.
With every new channel, there is a window of opportunity where you can have a disproportionate impact as long as you learn the rules fast and you play fast. And then those windows start to shut as the platforms either monetize them or more people join them and their value decreases.
Every platform ends up being crowded and noisy and very competitive. So email's in the same spot. You're going to find the spammers, the Russians, whatever. They have just scaled this. Like, I'm getting emails from people saying we can reach 25 million websites just through the contact form. We're going to do it via a machine. And I think some of us now seeing our inboxes get flooded by these bots. At the end of the day, everyone suffers because these turn people off and we lose trust. So the reality is that Facebook Messenger is the new, attention engine, but you've got to be very careful about it. But what's fantastic about it, some of the numbers we've experienced as well, is we get 10 times more open rates and 5 times more clicks.
Wow. Than email?
Than email.
Right, okay. Wow, okay, you heard it here, Facebook Messenger. Use with care.
Yeah, use it
They're
carefully.
pretty impressive engagement rates.
I will get more click-through rates, even though my list on Facebook Messenger is far less than my email list at this stage. So, but we have really doubled down on Facebook Messenger in the last, because watching the data, realising the open rates are dropping, the click-through rates on emails are dropping. And for me, I've always been about growth hacking.
Yep.
In other words, it's working with the algorithms, because we're in the middle of the battle of the algorithms.
Yep.
Right? Those algorithms are everywhere now. This is what machines have, algorithms. Mathematical algorithms that control how you use their platform. So that applies to Facebook, okay, organic reach, applies to Facebook Messenger, even email has algorithms on it. As you know, Google, 2 years ago, decided to give tabs, and you got social, and then there's spam and there's trash. These are all driven by emails controlled by algorithms.
Yeah.
What else? Search engine optimization. Search engines basically are full of algorithms, as we know. So the challenge is, as a marketer, is how can we work with the algorithms, and that's where the hacking comes in. So, okay, how can I use these algorithms to serve me?
Yeah.
And how can I use them to actually reach my audience? So, for example, 2 years ago, we decided to double down on our search engine optimization. We went much more technical, 6-month project. But by doing that, we actually increased our traffic by 1.5 million a year, just by optimising the site for search engines technically. In other words, making sure it was clean, fast, mobile-driven, had the right structure, right web map. So the reality is, we get 80% of our traffic now from search engines. We rank for literally tens of thousands of long-tail keywords.
Right, okay, yeah.
And so...
Has that changed with the advent of native language search?
I think it's...
Does that kind of track together, right? The rise of long tail together with natural language phrases?
Yeah, well, the other area that's affecting search now is, and you notice I don't use it this way, but a lot of the younger generation will search using voice.
Younger generation.
Okay. I don't use it that way. I prefer to type it in, because I don't want to annoy people talking to something in the middle of a room. So anyway, that's the way I'm wired. So, but voice search, that's another area which Neil Patel, who's very good on SEO, the other way he's actually gone for search is by actually creating websites and hunting down, basically optimizing for different languages.
Yeah.
So Spanish, French, Italian, because they're less competitive. English is the most competitive language for search engines. Okay. So, and these are growth hacking tactics, and some of them cost more than others.
So if you'd like to know more about some of these things, head on over to jeffbullas.com, where you can see a whole lot more of Jeff's IP, and we'll be back in a minute with more. One thing I've really noticed about Jeff's content in the 6 or so years that I've been reading it is that it has changed considerably. And certainly I think we've been on a journey as a firm across topics, across distribution channels, length, all sorts of, video, blog, the whole deal. But one of the things I've really noticed about your content, Jeff, is it's become much more personal.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm keen to ask a little about that. And in closing this webinar with you, to just understand what your thinking was, or what led you to talk about much more personal topics, and how that's working for you in terms of your readers' engagement and interest and feedback.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it came out about 5-6 years ago, because I was interviewed by a good friend of mine, Mark Schaefer out of the USA. He was over here doing a presentation, and what he asked me, he said, "Look, Jeff, why don't you tell your story?" So he actually pulled out his iPhone and he recorded a 7-minute video, just on the iPhone, and he uploaded to YouTube, and then he shared it when he got back to Knoxville, Tennessee, which is where Mark lives. So a friend of mine, she looked at it and saw my story as I talked about my story, because he asked me, he said, "How did this all start, Jeff?" Just like you asked me. And I really hadn't talked much about that before in the past, or written much about it.
Yeah.
So I said, "Really? Who cares about my story?"
Yeah.
So since that time, I've started to record and reflect on this journey that started just over 10, 11 years ago, because the reality is that people want to connect with you. So they want to know what drives you, because they want to, feel your pain. They want to see your joy, and also in this social media age, people want authenticity. They want to hear your story, much as you think no one cares. And then they can trust you more, you become more credible, you become more real, and that's what's really important. So what I suppose I've started to realise since I started was I started a blog which was, I loved what social media was.
Yep.
Now I love what social media does.
Right.
And the reality with that is that it gives us all a voice as humans. And that's what excites me today. It always has, but I just never really wrote about it. So that's the reason I'm much more personal. And as we all experience life, and as an event last year that cut really deep, and it's been a challenge for the last 12 months, and made me realise the importance of things like what is home, what is life about. And that's what I started writing about much more. And for me, it's not just about writing about, what does Twitter do today? What does Facebook do tomorrow? We publish all that stuff, and I get a lot of my guest authors to do that. But for me, it's much more important to sort of, I suppose, reveal more of my journey in the last 10 years. And for me, it's much more, and what I learned was by publishing, became a creator. So the mantra I have today is create, not only create it, share it with the world, publish, and then out of that and sharing, you can flourish, because you don't know what's going to work and what isn't going to work unless you actually share it with your audience. So the only way to find out what works and what doesn't is to actually share your creation with the world. And there's a lot of starving artists out there and a lot of starving companies that aren't prepared to share their story with the world. I like to know what, and when I go looking for websites, I go looking for what are these guys about? How did this all start? What drives this business? Because especially today, what's happening is we're looking for much more purpose-driven businesses.
Yep.
We're over the corporate pimping and spin. We basically want to hear the real stories.
Well, thank you for being brave. As Brené Brown would say, you've stepped into the arena. And it's, it's those in the arena who are real and honest and show the rawness of it, who are really, sharing very deeply with the rest of us. And I've seen that in your content. And I think that gives us a much stronger sense of connection with you when you're reading. Then you're sometimes quite specific tips about digital, but we kind of care a lot more about it when we know that you're a real person with a beating heart and a life story behind all that. So from my point of view, thank you for taking it there in your content, and thank you for joining me today.
It's been a pleasure.
And I look forward to the next episode with you where we'll continue the conversation.
Thank you.
Jeff. Thank you very much for joining us. Next time when I talk to Jeff, we're going to talk about traffic, because that is a question we get a lot, Jeff gets a lot, which is how do I get more of it, in short. We're going to talk a bit further about where to draw the line between personal and professional, and related to that to some extent, content strategy. So Jeff, thanks again. And people can find out more about what you do by going over to jeffbullas.com. Or if you'd like to hear more from Jeff and I in our next webinar, please sign up in the form that you'll see presented to you now. Thanks for joining us. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.